Therefore, they don't realize what the drama is from getting it. So we are the drama. Therefore, they don't realize what the drama is from getting it. So we are the drama. Therefore, they don't realize what the drama is from getting it. So we are the drama. Therefore, they don't realize what the drama is from getting it. So we are the drama. Therefore, they don't realize what the drama is from getting it. So we are the drama. Therefore, they don't realize what the drama is.
And the other thing, too, Bill, I want to clarify African religion a little, because when I travel the world, speaking about African religion, and I'm a newbie, but I've had the opportunity to learn from some of the Bawalawos and the master priests and priestesses. I actually just had a reading this past week where, I had to do some certain sacrifices that I'm not going to get into to open up the path for some of the things I'm trying to do. But nonetheless, I want people to understand something. In the African spiritual system, and it don't matter which one because they're all nothing but the same thing with different names. Whether we're talking about the Loas of the Voodoo, whether we're talking about the Abusum of the Akan, whether we're talking about the Nectaru of Kemet, whether we're talking about the Orisha of the Ifa of the Yoruba in Nigeria, it's the same system. Whether we're talking about the Palo or the Lakumi or the Santeria, it's the same system. I need African people to understand. And the reason I'm talking about this is because in order for us to get to where we need to be, we're going to have to return to our ancient spiritual system. And it does not require you to give up your current religion. I want to make sure we're clear. You can be Muslim and still deal with the ancestors. You can be Christian and still deal with the ancestors. You can be Hebrew and still deal with the ancestors. In fact, when you invoke Jesus and when you invoke Muhammad and when you invoke Abraham, you are invoking ancestors. But here's what I need us to understand. In the African spiritual system, there's a hierarchy, a divine hierarchy. At the top is the Most High, called by many names. None of them are sufficient. Netzeru, you got Amin-Ra. In Ifa, you got Olarun, Olodumare, Olofin. Okay? You go to the Akan, you have Nyame. Different names for the Creator. Different names all over Africa. Different names all over the world. And it's okay no matter which one you use because none of the names are sufficient because you cannot capture the infinite invisible with a title. So it doesn't matter what your name you use, none of them are sufficient, so they are all acceptable. God is so powerful, so unfathomable, so incomprehensible that it is impossible for us to totally comprehend the totality of the Great Spirit. Our ancestors knew that. And because they knew that, they dealt with God through the various manifestations of the one God's personality. So, for example, let's take Yoruba. Let's take the Ifa religion. In the Ifa, you have what's called Orisha, which means head. You're talking about the leading attributes of the one God's personality that we have personified so that we can relate to it. Because these are spirits. So you have Obatala. Obatala is the father of the Orisha, or father of the spirits, you can say, or one of the main aspects of God's personality. Obatala deals with purity, patience, righteousness. So when you need that type of energy in your life, you tap into Obatala. Now, when you pray to Obatala, are you praying to something separate from God? Not at all. You're simply dealing with one aspect of the divine personality. Then you go over to Shango. When you're dealing with Shango, you're dealing with the energy of lightning. When you're dealing with Shango, you're dealing with kingship because Shango was a warrior king. When you're dealing with Shango, you're dealing with wealth energy. When you're dealing with Shango, you're dealing with courage. Are you praying to a being separate from God? No, you're dealing with that aspect of the Supreme Being's personality. And then we come to Oshun. When we come to Oshun, we're talking about the energy of beauty. We're talking about the energy of the streams, of the lakes, of the rivers. Are you praying to an entity separate from God? No, you're not. You're dealing with that aspect of God's personality that deals with beauty, that deals with the rivers and the streams, that deal with childbirth, that deals with compassion, that deals with love. When you come to Ogun, Ogun is the divine energy of perseverance, persistence, of mettle, of war. Because yes, God is a God of war. Because the only way you can bring back righteousness is to exterminate evil. So yes, God is a God of war. But when you worship Ogun, are you worshiping something separate from God? No, you're not. You're worshiping one of God's aspects. When you go to Yemoja, you're dealing with the great divine mother. And we know that God was worshipped as a woman way longer than God was worshipped as a man. So you're dealing with the big mama. You're dealing with the energy of the waters. And then you go to